changing lives.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Law Chamber, where legal matters are discussed from a Christian perspective. The name is Anita, and you are welcome. If you are yet to tell that friend, to join, please do, because today we are going to talk about a very important topic. So last week and last 2 weeks, we discussed about inheritance, right? The wills and not making a will. SNET was here to educate us on it. So please, if you do have any issues still with your SNET issues, you can contact us and we'll link you with our SNET lady. I think this week I got about 4 calls, and she was very helpful. Jemima was very, very helpful. So Jemima, again, thank you. So today we are going to talk about the relationship between the landlord and the tenant. The landlord and the tenant. This relationship is a, how do I put it? It's supposed to be a beneficial one, and it is, but it can sometimes be very acrimonious. It can be very strained. So today we're going to discuss that. But this time we'll be looking at this from the perspective of the landlord. So what are some of the duties of the landlord, responsibilities? What are some of the things that should come to the landlord that we are not aware of? What are some of the things that the landlord is supposed to do that we're also not aware of? So sit tight and please join us as we discuss it today. Hopefully, God willing, next week we'll be looking at this from the tenant. So if you are the tenant today, I think you want to watch this so that you know what your landlord is supposed to do. If you are the landlord, next week you join the tenant and listen so that you know what the tenant is supposed to do. So let me welcome my guests. And I know I'm going to massacre this name, but I'll still go ahead. Let me welcome Emmanuel Zovi Posu. Have I massacred it?
No, you are not far from that. The X is O.
O.
Or V.
Or V. Okay,
Posu,
silence.
Yeah, exactly,
okay.
Exactly.
Emmanuel Ovi Posu.
That's right.
Oh, my idea.
Yeah. I told you are not far from that.
I'm not. So Ima is the head of public relations at the Rent Control Department, Ghana. In a nutshell, he's the spokesperson. So please, when you are listening, don't listen to the English. Oh, if you have any questions, send it. He's there to convince you. We know what the reality is. Oh, don't let Iba tell us everything is fine, please. So if you have any questions, please let us have them. And then I also have Juliet Boabain Esquire. She's a lawyer, and she's a principal legal officer with the Ghana Armed Forces. She also works as a lawyer with Advantage Law Bureau. One thing you have to know about her is that she offers legal services for free to the needy. So if you have any legal issues that you don't have money, really you don't have money. Yes, or you have money, I can't tell you don't have money. You don't have money. Juliet is one of the ladies you want to talk to. So don't worry. When we close, you can ask for her number if you are interested. We'll let you have it. And if you have money too, she works for money. Yeah, so you can bring that one as well. And she worships with Maker's House Chapel. Juliet, it's important that they know that you also charge. Because most often I don't, shall I? The promo don't come,
in fact, we have to add, combine the two.
We have to chop.
Definitely.
We have to. But how is it like with the Ghana Armed Forces?
Oh, it's quite flexible over there. You know, we close early.
2 o'clock.
Yeah, we are done.
Hey, tell me.
Oh, 1:30.
1:30.
And so the rest of the day is for you to do whatever legal work you want to do. So.
That's the work to do. 1:30, that's the work to do. Ima, you're also a chartered arbitrator?
Yeah, ADR practitioner.
ADR practitioner. What do you do? What does that mean?
Yeah, ADR, apart from criminal cases, you can mediate, arbitrate, and negotiate with parties. Yeah, so that's what you do.
So you're the PR. You're also the PR for the rent control.
Yeah.
So what does your work entail?
Yeah, aside that, I'm a rent officer as well. So
Okay.
as a rent officer, you adjudicate cases,
Okay.
okay, between landlords and tenants. And I do the sensitization work for the department as well. At my quiet time, I try to mediate and then, yeah.
Get
So-
something small into your pocket. So do you get so many cases when it comes to landlord and tenant? Do you get a lot of cases?
Yes, so our last statistics, that is 2021, we had about 18,000 cases, okay, and out of that, about 83% we were able to settle
Amicably resolve it.
easily.
Wow.
And then the rest were referred to the magistrate to make a determination. Some were strike off, some were redrawn by the complainant. So this,
Then the
yeah, we
percentage
get a
is
lot
good.
of, yeah.
80 and above.
Yeah.
Even UCC cry, you get an
Yeah.
A. Leg on their A plus, bro.
So we are doing, though we have some logistical problems, but we are doing what we are expected of.
I hope you are ready for this discussion today.
I'm very ready. I'm very ready. We are
Because
here
rent
to
control.
educate.
Where's your office located?
Within Accra, we have the head office close to the Tema station, adjacent to the passport office. But aside that, we have offices around Tema, Community 1, Ashiama near the Circuit Court. From the northern side, Amasaman, Ofanko, the Medina area. When you are moving, immediately after Accra, you can get our office at Kaswa, which is outside Accra in a better way. So in a nutshell, this is what we cover. But we have 58 offices, okay, across the country. An office can serve 2 or 3 adjacent offices. We are pushing that when the bill is passed, we'll have offices in all the 275 districts in the country. Because all the districts will be mandated to allocate offices where we only send our expertise.
Ima is doing the PR. Ima, we'll move from PR right now. I'll come back to you right now. So, Julia, let me ask this question.
Yeah.
When we talk about landlord-tenant relationship, what is it?
Oh, when we talk about landlord-tenant relationship, it's just talking about a situation whereby a landlord leases premises, or an owner of a property leases the premises to another individual for rent, and then also for a specific period. So that relationship is a matter of renting premises from a landowner at a rent to begin
So we
with.
have some few laws governing them.
Of course, we have the laws of Ghana which governs a landlord-tenant relationship. We can talk about the Land Act, Act 1036. We can talk about the Rent Act, Act 220, and we can also talk about the LI, which all governs the land matters and for that matter, landlord-tenant relationship.
And so this relationship is mainly protected and educated by the rent control department?
And the courts as well.
You can't.
Of course.
The
The jurisdiction of the courts. So in some cases, people may not even refer the case to the rent control. They just go straight to court, and the court is also mandated by law to take on whatever case you have in respect of.
Will you say that it is preferable to go through the rent control before you go to court?
It is preferable, because they will let you know all the rights that you have and what's the likely outcome even if you are supposed to go to court, it will be. And so it will save you cost, because you may not have to, get a lawyer to defend you in court and all of that. So I think that it is preferable that you go through the rent control, discuss whatever issues with them, and then they will investigate the matter and then bring a good resolution to it. So it's good.
Okay, so let me come to you, Iman. Let's look at some of the rights of a landlord.
Okay.
So we know, first tell us who a landlord is, and then what are some of the rights of a landlord?
Okay. So just to continue from where my sister left, the key word is the rent that you pay. So if you build a premises and you give it to your son or your daughter or any family member without collecting a rent or money for the person to stay in that premises for a period of time, you cannot call yourself a landlord.
Okay.
And the person who is dwelling in the premises, if you've not paid any money to somebody, I'm paying you this money to dwell in your premises for this period of time, you cannot call yourself a tenant. So that is the definition.
Does the quantum matter?
The quantum does not matter. The ingredient there is the rent that you pay.
Something.
So if you've not paid any rent, if I'm dwelling in my father's property or apartment and I've not paid rent, I cannot call myself a tenant. And my father cannot call himself a landlord. Because there's no... Exactly. So that's the relationship. There are some 4 basic responsibilities on a landlord. The first one, we call it CAT, rent CAT, C-A-R-T. The C is the rent card. Under the Act Section 20, it talks within 7 days after the agreement has been signed, the landlord is supposed to issue a rent card to the tenant.
A rent card?
A rent card.
What's the rent card?
Okay. It's the card that identifies what we say, what should I call this? You see, details of the landlord.
So
okay?
It's like
the particulars.
The particulars, okay. So it specifies the details of the landlord, specifies the details of the tenant, and then your frequency of payment. If it's monthly, you issued it, and it comes in 2, so that the landlord will be holding one, the tenant will be holding one. When there's any change to be done, the 2 cards must come together. We effect the change on the 2, and then we give it back to them. The second one is the agreement.
Wait, we'll come to the second one.
Okay.
So the cards, how do we get? Is it that it's
yes, it's only you can get it at rent control offices.
How much?
It's 10 cedis for the 2, for the pair.
Okay.
So every landlord is mandated under the Act to get one. Anytime you get a tenant in your premises, if you don't do it, constitutes an offense. Okay. Yes. So let's move on.
The second one. We'll come on.
So the second one, A, is the agreement,
okay,
which should come first before even you collect money from the tenant or the prospective tenant. Because that will specify the rights and responsibilities of the person who is come to dwell in your premises. And your right as well and your responsibility as a landlord. You rented a place out, you still have some commitments to make. Because you don't just give the premises to the person and then leave the person. There are some responsibilities you have to take care of. So the tenancy agreement must be the first thing to issue to the person for him to read and understand and sign before you collect money. And even before you collect money, the law under Section 4 of the Rent Control Law 1986 demands that after the signing of the tenancy agreement, you, the landlord, must lodge a copy with the Rent Control Department. Why or what is the reason behind? You know, tenancy agreement is a mutual agreement between the 2 people. And then it's not an imposition, okay? And before drafting the tenancy agreement, if you don't have any knowledge, we have samples in our offices where you can come for. Or you contact any lawyer who can help you to draft the tenancy agreement. And you have to make sure that you are not going to infringe on somebody's human right. The fact that I've paid you money does not give you the right to infringe on me. That 10 o'clock I have to close my door or my gate.
What if 10 o'clock I really have to close my gate because of security reasons?
No, if there are reasons, okay, and you come in agreement with the person.
So if I don't come in agreement and you say no, then I'll not rent my place to you.
Of course,
and who's going to suffer?
Yeah, so that's the issue. So when you give me the tenancy agreement and when I go through and I see that, no, these clauses I cannot abide by or my situation cannot support that, I move to somewhere else.
Huh?
Okay, so those are the things. So the idea is for us to make sure that you are not going to infringe on somebody's human right. The issue about 6 months, 2 years, and all those things, we make sure that all those things are not there. Because if we see, we ask you to go and change them.
What does it mean? It means that rent ordinarily is for 6 months.
The maximum rent advance that the law has prescribed is 6 months, if it's a long tenancy. There are 2 kinds of tenancy: short term, which is not beyond 6 months, and long term, which is beyond 6 months. So it can be 10 years, it can be 5 years. But the law is saying that if it's a long term rental or agreement, the maximum you can take should be a blocks of 6 months. So if it's 2 years, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, so the tenancy expires. If you want to renew, you can go into a new renewal and then sign.
But we know that people take 2 years, 3 years. And
people also pay. You know, the issue is that it's a collective responsibility. I always cite this example that people, you know, our figures are not the same, okay? A tenant may go before a landlord with a 6 months. Whilst he's negotiating, another tenant is standing behind him, telling the landlord, signaling the landlord, I can pay 2 years. I can pay 5 years. We are killing ourselves. If all of us will stand on it, that if I go for 6 months, the other person behind me will insist on 6 months, the landlord will not leave his premises and wait for anybody.
We know
but I understand.
In a free world, and it will not happen. So what is the rent control department doing?
No, we understand is the housing deficit which is causing this. Okay. No, but demand and supply, but that does not give you the right to do any illegal thing. I don't have a house.
I've gone run. I'm not getting it. The person says I should bring 2 years, and I need a place to stay.
Yes. So what about the person who's also the housing deficit is there? So let's stand on our right. If we stand on our right, the other person
I'll go and sleep outside in the street.
Of course.
I mean, because I'm thinking that maybe I will be forced to pay because of my circumstances. But if rent control departments can step in and say that, okay, because you did it and it infringes the law, then I'm going to prosecute you.
You know what is also happening? When we go to the court, it's about evidence. The time you are signing the agreement with the landlord, rent control is not there. It's only when a problem comes that we see. What we've started doing, or what we've been doing now, is that we caution a lot of the landlords. And most of them have not come up with the same offenses. Though the number is very minimal, some landlords have started taking monthly. Some are taking the blocks of 6 months. I just mentioned, the number is very minimal. So you cannot just mention them.
So what are you doing?
So the sensitization program is ongoing.
You have powers to prosecute. You are doing sensitization.
I understand. I understand we have the powers, but all the same, we need to educate. Ignorance of the law, as you people say, it's no excuse.
Exactly.
So that's why we've started cautioning.
Some people understand punishment. So the landlord, 1, 2, 3, 4 have been prosecuted. They've been asked to pay lump sum.
Okay.
It will be a caution to the others. But if my landlord says 6 years waje, 5 years waje, 3 years waje, and nothing is being done.
No, you see, we don't also work in isolation. We work together with the magistrates or the district judges. And then our recommendations are there, okay, for them to enforce those things. So if we send our recommendation and the judge is not stamping on it for us, just as I said.
Are you doing it?
Yes, we've given a lot of recommendations because we've sent a lot of referrals to the magistrate, just awaiting their verdict so that we can put some of those things.
Hey, but are you sure you're not doing me PR?
No, I'm not doing PR. These are the facts. Okay. You have your facts. People are charging 2 years. Those are facts. We see and then we hear all those things. But we caution those things. Just as I mentioned, those with caution, some are abiding by it, but some are very stubborn. Let me put that way. And those who are stubborn, we've sent our, we don't have the right to fully prosecute somebody or sentence somebody. Yeah. It's up to the judge with our recommendation to enforce those.
Okay, so you are saying cuts. So do we have the C?
We have the C. The R is the receipt of payment. Anytime somebody pays any money in relation to a rent, instantly the law demands that you issue a receipt. If you don't have official receipt, you can just draft something on a paper. Later you can issue the official receipt. And the last T is the rent tax, which people are running away from.
What?
The rent tax.
Rent tax?
Yes. Okay.
In Ghana?
Yes, under the Income Act tax Act, under Section 115, it's clearly there that when it's a residential premises, you pay 8%. If it's a commercial of the rent advance that has been paid to you as a landlord, 8%, and then 50% if it's a commercial venture. But it's a withholding tax as well, which the tenant has right to withhold, go and pay, add the money to
withhold and then go and sleep away.
No, you withhold that tax.
They will sack you from the house. Why are you not being practical?
No,
because the landlord is telling me I'm charging you 1,000. 1,000 by 6,000, right?
Yes, yeah.
6,000, you're saying, no, I'm not going to pay 6,000. I'm withholding tax.
No, you are not holding it. You deduct, go and pay, add the receipt to the rest of the money, and give it to the landlord.
So it's really not going to give the landlord the 6,000.
The landlord can take the 6,000 and then take the 8% if it's the residential and go and pay the tax. In Ghana, we don't understand or we don't know the benefit of tax. That's why, and it's a duty of the GRA. Okay, it's not rent control to be deducting or collecting that money.
Oh, so it doesn't come to you?
It doesn't come to us. It goes into the consolidated fund. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the basics. Okay. There are a lot of rights and responsibilities as well. Yeah, I don't know if my sister will
talk about
come in.
I just want to just chip in a little about in terms of the tenancy and then the payment of rent.
Yeah.
I mean, under the Act, it just protects tenants that paying rent. But under common law, we can have tenancy at will, tenancy at sufferance, whereby you give a premises to someone, if the person is not paying any rent or anything, but then you want to eject the person, you can still go to court and then you'll be able to get those orders. Yeah.
So, Ima.
Yeah.
So let's go back a bit.
Okay.
Okay. So you've talked about the agreement. So in the agreement, we have the name, we have the address of the person, we have that of the tenant, the address, we have the duties, the responsibilities, responsibilities, and all that. And the tenant, or let's say the landlord one day gets up and goes like, you know what? My son is coming from America. And I need this room for my son. So I'm giving you 3 days.
Okay.
Please vacate the premises.
Okay.
I want you to discuss that bit.
Okay. Okay. So just as you just outlined, the issue is that you, the tenant, going for their premises, the first key issue is the tenancy agreement, where there should be a clause that when you want to evict me or you want to take possession of your premises, you should give me this period of time. But if nothing of that sort is in the agreement, then that's where you have to run to rent control department, where we make sure that what you are telling us that your son is coming from outside, we need the itinerary, the plane ticket. We have to
But let's go a little bit back. Okay. So it means that ordinarily, all things being equal, if they come to rent control and I want to evict someone from a house, how many months will you ordinarily give the person? Normal eviction.
We look at the circumstance.
Okay.
We look at the circumstance. Let's assume a tenant who is using the premises for illegal immoral purposes. Of course, this person, you don't give the person a loan, or a person who is very violent.
But ordinarily, let's say an normal average.
Yeah, just as I said, we look at the circumstance. The law or the act only specify if it's a commercial venture, and that has been specified that the maximum of 6 months must be given to that person. But when it comes to residential, there's no limit.
But most of the tenants, I hear you give usually 3 months.
It's not in our laws. It's
I think it's court decisions. I mean, that is a reasonable time for the person to. Yes.
No, but that was peculiar to a certain situation. Okay, so there's no fixed date or month.
You can give even 1 year.
You can give even 1 year. Looking at the circumstance, you can give it. If you come to tell me
and that 1 year period, the person is supposed to pay rent, right?
Supposed to pay.
Because the funny thing is that when people think that the rent control have given them 3 months or 1 year, it means it should be free.
Yeah, no. No. Under Section 31, it said nothing should prevent the landlord from collecting its rate. And the rate is factored into the rent. Okay, we may go into assessment, go into assessment. So if the rate is factored into the rent, and you want me to give you that rent free, who will pay the property rate for me?
That's true.
Yeah, so there's no free rent.
Okay, so now let's go back to my son is coming to Ghana.
So just as I said, we look at all the documents to make sure that really your son, you are not just coming with a story, just to make sure that tenant move. You come down, your house is deteriorating, you want to do renovation. What are the plans? When are you going to finish? Because the law demands that even if you finish renovation, the tenant who you evicted or moved out should be the first person to consider when you want to rent a place out.
So why if I don't want to rent it out again?
Yeah, that's if you want it, we'll monitor you. We have to monitor you and make sure that you are not going to rent
Seriously,
it. Seriously,
can you really monitor?
If our resource now, we cannot do it. I have to be frank. We cannot do it. But moving forward, moving forward, I think these are what the law has specified. But the resource issue is there, which is impeding some of our functions.
Okay. So let's say you've confirmed that indeed my son is coming. Indeed, we need to renovate. How many days do you give the person?
Yes, just as I said, we look at the circumstance. And then if there is an alternative for your son to dwell in that place, for the person's tenancy to end, we look at all this and then we just push you.
I don't understand.
Yeah, so your son is coming.
Yes.
Let's assume it's 4 months for my tenancy to end. If your son comes in the country and he can have an alternative.
No, he can't have an alternative. That's why I'm evicting.
Yes. So in that case, okay, again, we look at who suffer most. Okay.
You're comparing my son with the tenant.
Of course. The
My
fact
son,
that
my house.
Of course, it's
with
your
a
son.
tenant.
You know, before you depart or you give your premises out, you should know your future plans. Okay, you cannot just wake up one day and tell me my son is coming next week.
My son can wake up one day and wants to come back for
Yes, so
whatever
when
reason
he
is happening
comes,
there.
you've signed agreement with me. I've not
So I give you back
committed
your
any
money.
offense. You give me my money, fine, but you give me time
How
to
long?
dwell.
So how long?
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. Just like my sister said, it can go a month or two, maximum 3 months. If it comes to store or those things, maximum 6 months. But in all this, we don't peg it at you are coming, so 6 months. We look at the second
My
month.
son is
Who is
coming
going to
within 2
suffer?
weeks.
Yes.
And I need the premises for my
No.
son.
You know, the legal process is there. We have to pass it. First, the tenant has to come to us, file the case of inducement. You are now, I've signed an agreement, my tenancy has not expired. You are pushing me out. You constitute an inducement. You are pushing me out. We'll look at it. We'll call you back. We'll see how we can resolve it. If the tenant hopes to leave within the next day, why? You cannot force that person. A refund will be made, then he moves away.
The
But
tenant is quite powerful.
where the tenant cannot
But
get...
you don't see it, do we?
Yeah, so where the tenant cannot find an alternative accommodation, your son should be able to, at least for a period of some time, to get an alternative accommodation whilst we relocate.
So the tenant can't look for an alternative, but my son should look for
no, both
alternative.
will be looking for. Okay, both will be looking for an alternative.
Whilst my son is staying lying outside.
Of course, you've signed an agreement with me. That was my plan, that I'm leaving your premises for a year. You cannot just come one day and tell me that your son is coming, so tomorrow I have to move out.
And we don't have anything they act that says that family members coming to stay in the premises, there's an exception to that.
No, there's still an exception, but in all those cases, you have to give the tenant...
What's the exception?
No, the exception is that, no, if you've traveled out as a landlord and the work is bringing you back to your area, you have the right to recover possession.
Yes, immediately.
Your son... No, not immediately.
I'm in the house. I want the room to sleep in.
Of course, you went somewhere. You've signed an agreement. You've collected money from me.
I'm giving you back your money.
You are giving me, but you cannot throw me out.
So I should lie out.
You should lie out, because that's it. If you know
You might like that.
Yeah, that's it. So that's what I'm saying. We look at who is going to suffer most. Okay, that's it.
I think, Juliet, you have something
We
to
have
say.
to.
Yeah, I
suffer
wanted
most.
to add. I mean, ask whether you have the power to make an order as to telling the landlord don't do this, or the case has to be sent to the magistrate.
The state has to, we make recommendation.
Yeah.
If we don't abide by it, we get the order from the magistrate.
So by the time you come back and I've already evicted the person.
No, that you'll be prosecuted. You don't have the right.
And what's the worst
The
case
worst
scenario?
is 2 years imprisonment or 10,000 cedis, or both.
Or both.
Yes.
In the law, they will always say
Yeah.
or both.
Yes.
So it means a landlord can be jailed for 2 years
Yes.
for unlawfully evicting
Evicting a tenant.
a tenant.
Yes. In all
It
cases, you
seems
don't
the
have the
tenant
right
is
to
powerful,
force.
but we don't see it,
Yeah.
do we?
No, because we don't stand on our right.
Okay, so
Okay.
we're talking about the duties and responsibilities of
Yeah.
the landlord.
Yeah.
What are some of the rights
Okay.
of the landlord?
Okay.
Let's make the landlord happy a bit.
Okay. Okay. So the first right you have is that you have the right to apply for an assessment. The assessment is where you want a rent to be determined. Okay, with assistance of the rent officer or the magistrate. So we come to your premises and look at what you've used in building your premises, even the value of the land on which you build your premises. And that helps us to determine how much rent you have to collect. Okay, so that's the first right. The second right is you have right to be issued with assessment certificate. When we finish the assessment, we issue with assessment certificate, within which we state how much you have to charge for a period of 2 years. So after the 2 years, you come for what we call reassessment. Okay. The third one is that you have the right to appeal before the magistrate. You come before a rent officer, the adjudication is not in your favor or you don't like it. You cannot abhor it within yourself. You have right to visit the magistrate and then in the form of an appeal. Again, it's your right to give a tenant a 1 month clear notice. After the assessment, you don't immediately go and then start collecting the new rent. We are in December now. An assessment has been done now. You don't have right to start collecting in January. January should be there freely for the person also to start preparing for the new rent. So it's your right to do that. And again,
this one, just I'll give it to the tenant. This one is not a right of the landlord.
No, it's a right.
I've increased the tenant. I'm supposed to give you 1 month.
Yeah.
For you to pay the old one before I go to the new one. Then how does that benefit me as a right?
No, it benefits you because you cannot impose that in.
That's for the tenant now.
No, it's vice versa. Because if you go to the tenant side, it will be its responsibility as well. And then what we get, you have right to take possession of your premises based under Section 17, whether you are coming to dwell in personally, whether you want to renovate, whether your family member is coming to. But in all those cases, you just need to notify the rent control office. Okay? Let me put this out there, that when you rent your premises out, your right is cut. Anything you want to do must pass through the rent control department. It may be your own, it is your own house. Mm-hmm. It is your own premises. Mm-hmm. But you don't have the right to forcefully eject any tenant from your premises. The word there is forcefully.
Don't we have exceptions?
No, there is no exception. There's no say. All grievances must pass through the rent control department or the magistrate.
The person is doing something illegal in my house and
yes.
I should come and
yes, so an investigation has to be conducted. That may be your perception that the person is using the person for immoral and legal purposes.
So let's say by the time everything is done and my house has burnt down, what goes into it?
Of course, the person will be charged
and
for.
And the person is a man of straw. He doesn't have that much money to collect.
Yeah, so that's why you have to
help me.
That's why you have to do clear due diligence. You have to do background check before you give your premises out to anybody.
Hey.
And you can also make a police report. If,
of course.
Yeah.
How is that getting me my money? Juliet, how is that getting me?
Anyway.
No, so the last one is not to demand more than the 6 months rent advance. And that's Section 25 of that.
Is it right?
You see, it's as if when you own a property and you're renting it, it's a whole.
No, it's a whole issue, but we take them lightly. We take them lightly until something happens before we. When they come before us and we start to educate them, they realize that there are a lot of things they are supposed to do which they are not doing. Mm.
So I believe that the main right of the landlord is to recover rent, and also to the tenant is also to ensure that the place there's no waste in the premises. You come for a building. I mean, there's everything, furniture, everything has been properly finished, and you come and destroy the items there, you would have to pay back or you have to repair those things. So those are things that tenants. Yes.
So let's say, for example, the person who is renting the apartment dies, and we have maybe 4 months outstanding. Yeah. Can the family recover that money?
Yeah, the family can do. Even the family, if it's a wife or children, they have right to dwell in that premises until the tenancy expires. If there's a need for renewal, they can sign with the landlord. But at the end of the tenancy, the landlord has right to renew or to abrogate. That's at the end of the tenancy.
So if there's no wife or children, the family really wants to recover that outstanding amount?
Yes, there should be a refund.
Of course.
There should be a refund.
And if the landlord says...
the family can come to retain the amount, yes, because they can't give that money freely to somebody.
So let me get into your work a bit. Okay. So what's the work of a rent officer? Okay.
So the main work or the duty or functions of the rent officer is to adjudicate cases. But when you look at Section 5 of the Rent Act, part of our function is to conduct an assessment. That's to determine the rent. Okay, we also have the right to forward any determination to the magistrate. Okay, the minister can access to conduct the assessment or to do any investigation. Okay. Also, as part of our function is to make sure what we call the abscondant process. Abscondant process is where somebody dwells in your premises, the person times has elapsed or the tenancy has ended, and the person has not handed over your keys to you. In that particular moment, you don't have right to force opening the premises. We have a legal process which you have to follow. And a part of the legal process is to give a 2 weeks notice, which will be pasted in front of the door or any visible place on the premises. After the 2 weeks, if the person does not appear, we go to the magistrate or the judge, ask for the order to force open the premises. So we do that, and then after that, we list all the items, keep them at a safe place together with the landlord. Then we give ourselves another 2 weeks. After the next 2 weeks, if the person is still not coming, we still go back to the magistrate, ask what we should do with the belongings or the item. Either we sell and put the money in the consolidated fund, or just dash the items based on the items, then we give it to either SOS or any charity owned. So these are some of the functions of the rent officer. But the main aim is to make sure any grievance between the landlord and the tenant, which this abscondant process all come into play, we make sure we settle them. Yeah.
The more I listen, the more it seems as if the landlord is handicapped.
You know, the idea of the Act since 1963 was focused on the tenant, just to protect those vulnerable tenants.
What about the vulnerable landlord?
Do you have, is this new?
There are some tenants who are recalcitrant.
Yes.
So you're going to live with this person for another 3 months, 6 months, because the rent control department is saying that you can't.
No. You see, if the tenants start to cause nuisance and annoyance,
Of course.
you cannot wait.
The nuisance and annoyance can be subjective.
Of
Maybe
course.
how the person is dressing and how the person is acting, I don't like it.
Yes, so
and
that
the person is, I think, morally corrupting my children. But you will think, say, that's the person's right to wear what he or she wants to wear.
So that's where you have to report. That's where you don't have the right to forcefully, based on your perception that this person is causing nuisance or is using the place for immoral. That's why you have to report for an investigation to be conducted, okay? So that if it's true that the person is causing nuisance, we just make a recommendation. If the person does not abide by it, we get the order from the magistrate to force the person out.
Yeah, I think I also agree with you on that regard, because getting a new premises is something that may take time.
Exactly.
So just at your beck and call, you sit there, today I don't like you, move your things. No.
There's some landlords
yes,
who can really do that.
yes, and I think that is not fair. Yeah. So I believe it's in the right direction that we protect the tenants who may not have anywhere to go.
Yeah. So my last question before we go for this short break. Okay. Someone rents a place to another person.
Okay.
The person who rented the place is not the landlord. Okay. So ordinarily cannot rent the place out. Okay. But the place has been rented out. Okay. Now the landlord is in and says, I didn't rent it out to you. Yeah. And this is my building. Yeah. So I'm giving you 24 hours. Yeah. Vamos.
Yeah, so in that case, you see, that's why we always caution people, the renters or the prospective tenants, that you do your due diligence before you depart money to somebody. Diligence? You do some background checks. You know, the place you are going to rent will not be an isolated place. Of course, you can ask around and find the rightful owner. If you rent and give money to somebody, the landlord has right, okay? Because I've not asked anybody. These Shwesomami people, just look after my house. I know you will be staying there for 2 years, so let me try my own kakra. Then 1 year he gives it up. If I come and I want to dwell in, fine. In all those cases, you still have to pass through the rent control department.
There's no rent involved here, so why would I come?
No, somebody have paid rent to somebody.
That somebody is not the landlord or the landowner. So
yeah.
how can that person
it doesn't have any interest at all. So
no, but how did the person get access to your premises?
But the person can get, a lot of people can get access. So let's say, Ima, there can be a lot of reasons why people get access.
No, of course. A little investigation. No, we do a little investigation before we move the person out, together with the magistrate.
But there's no relationship in the first place.
No, there's no relationship, but we still have to do some.
But I don't need to come to you in the first place.
No, you need to.
There's no rent.
money has been paid
I think
to somebody.
Wait,
okay, money has been paid to somebody.
Not to the landlord.
Not to the landlord, but how did the person get us? These are the small investigation we will do, and if it is ascertained that the person the money has been given to has no relation with the proper landlord, of course, we won't let you dwell in that place. We will let you go, and then a fraud issue has been committed. We'll let you go, and then
I think there's no case actually.
No, there is case. Somebody has collected money from somebody who has posted
so
himself.
So go and prosecute that person. That has nothing to do with me. So get out of my house and go and prosecute that person.
I think I agree with you and on that score, because if you don't have any interest, you cannot convey any interest. So if you don't have any title to the property and you convey it, the person gets nothing. So that landlord-tenant relationship may not even come into existence for you to be entitled to go to the rent control. That's, well, as he's saying, for the sake of peace.
Exactly.
Peace. I will evict you for peace.
But I'm also, I mean, we must also caution people that, I mean, when you're going to rent a premises, ask for the document.
Exactly.
Where is the lease agreement?
Actually, we'll be coming there. So,
so
you hold on shortly for me. Let me try and summarize this quickly. If I chop. Say, and the topic in our discussion, I say, pet dying. You say, landlord and tenant, no. My relationship, then they a bit me, so. Then they share from landlord, no. Nyamiya doma next week. They share from tenant. Na we a landlord now. Do die more be. Law ne say unti more than 6 months rent. Then I be 2 years and 3 years. Ye ka say, what they say I would jeje. As some banner do current control department do bet me a court. Bet me a demo for 2 years. What could that prison? He bet me a Jews castle. And I bet Jews can someone could demo. Yes, I can say all things being equal. Say all rented place out. Making sure say nipa na rent your man know why you be check a crowd no. Because and yes, I sorry I am fee into me too. Debbie, nipa na betim do work rent control department. You see, there are more offices and doors so. About kona make who and Accra Central market work highway ono. Oko honoma odo ye do oko honoma. E bitimi ama nipa na 3 months, 6 months, even 1 year. So until now feel what son on for baby fufro. That doesn't mean says nipa no so but now sa feel for 3 months in 1 year na the man no. Almost see a friend say nipa na a tenant of the state. Or a tenant of the state go bet your rent. But nipa never bet now feel for that long as we baby fufro ako. Into person be bet now fear share ye na make sure say nipa no ye nipa between that na. In the do baby so a landlord ni be o hanoma sorry maybe fear brochi bant me too. Timi to tenant na sao. She say we call rent control department. Oh, what's the name? I make a rent control department. I don't say. They do baby say me die na me pay bia na me ye. Debi o. You know pay bia na o ye. Do baby obi o house me too. No was say nipa na nyame ni egu aponten. Ye go do rent control department on who beti ma chiro. Wait me akode me beti me ti oska. Nipa no crop beti me ka say misika 10,000, 50,000 mi ayera. Wait ya. In 7 years can be brave, but near can say, I nyama we near ho. But oh yes, so your agreement. Or say 1 year or be a friend card, or rent control department or memo card. Card no, I hear wait you, oh landlord no about tenant no about your agreement. Agreement inside no. Vacation is every 2 months, 2 years say, oh yes say. Now, oh yes say I met me too. And I say member 1 month notice me too. Ni na wo mo a and then they do the current control now or more boy na etu nipa na enya den. But you be say agreement we here we see me dey. You be say 1 man nipa ni receipt, 2 man nipa ni receipt. Inti ni na no meaning say one kasa we bubra ne dada. Inti wo mo say ye wo dan, wo mo say one na person wo ye na person wo ye. But ni nya governed by law. Emra bebre wo ho. Into who to asem wa biso a landlord to fie na wani age that sem me ba na me hu say sa na fie ni audience enyo nkwa ho de ti enko for this short commercial break. We'll be right back.
one night only, the city will converge at the National Theatre as United in Praise presents the A Cappella Festival.
Why don't you get up and give the Lord a shout of praise?
Yes, brace for a swell musical experience on Saturday, December 31st, as Ghana's hottest a cappella groups usher us into 2023 in style. On stage, Black Cappella, The Manifest, Vocal Part, Note 6, K3M, New Era, Soul Street, with a special appearance from Pestak Briggs, Gifty Dia, Mark Enim, and Perez Music. Tickets are selling now for a cool 70 Ghana cedis single and 150 Ghana cedis VIP, or you can go for 300 Ghana cedis for the family of 5. Dial star 928 star 529 hash to purchase your tickets. Get ready for the A Cappella Festival live at the National Theatre. Don't forget, the date is Saturday, 31st December. The gate opens at 5 p.m. sharp.
The A Cappella Festival is proudly endorsed by Beyond the Return and supported by Charterhouse, Events Dome, Midima Foheba Clinic, Meridian Ghana Conference.
This event is powered by United in Praise.
Nia onyankopon hwehwa ne se onipa bia bedi yie e wasase so. Eno ti adwuma bia wo ye no, wo hia ho nimdie ene nkyerɛkyerɛ papa. Mpanifo se sanwa beba kontomre enkwan ani a na ejinemu nam so. Eno nti na Hope Channel edi dwumadi a ye friend se Business Forum abrewo. Yawada nwumre no nwotwe bia ne kyerɛ 8 p.m. Shia me na nakwa misika. Menim panimfo a wa ben na wa dosukɔ e wo sikasemu. Adwadie mu ene enwuma mu besi nkonya ne amaw nkyerɛkyerɛ papa a ɛbɛboaw na nso watimi atumpɔn piao.
Come back and let's zoom in. We don't have much time. So, Juliet, can non-Ghanaians own and rent out properties?
Of course. I mean, citizens and non-citizens alike, I mean, are allowed under the law to own properties and then to rent out properties. I mean, but then there are two things that I want to clarify. I mean, the law and the current law and Lands Act makes provision that you cannot have a freehold interest in land, whatever interest it is. You can't have an absolute interest or freehold interest. But then...
so we are looking at how many years? We're not 50 years?
In respect of foreigners.
Foreigners.
In respect of foreigner, you cannot have an interest in land which exceeds 50 years. So you may have 50 years lease agreements for which you can build any premises and rent it out. So for that matter, a non-Ghanaian can also rent out premises. But your interest will not be above 50 years.
So with this non-Ghanaian, are they also governed by the Rent Act and the Rent Control Department?
Of course. Just like any other citizen, they are governed by that.
So let me say, a foreigner, we are not restricted, right? Africans, Europeans, all of them.
Yes. Who is not a citizen? I mean, when you talk about, I mean, yeah, we have a citizen and non-citizen. So if you're not a citizen of Ghana and you are a foreigner or you're from another country.
And so someone will ironically say that, if you need chroma by me chrome, no, high diamond.
No, the underlying factor is you should have a residential or working permit. If you do, you have right to.
You have right. We also go to other countries and buy properties.
Actually, I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that angle. Because
can you imagine? You know, the only thing is that we don't want them to have perpetual hold over the land, whereby it's for them forever, and then they can do whatever they like with it. But we are restricting them to a certain years, so that we may decide after 50 years we are not even renewing your rent or your lease, and then you may have to go back to your country.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about the within 2 minutes about the bill. So we have, apart from this, the Act is 1963.
63.
63.
Yeah.
How old now? Older than all of us here.
Definitely.
The act is older than all of us. So now we have a new bill.
Yes,
The question I'm asking, the first question I have to ask is, even the ones in this Act 63, which is older than all of us here, you've not implemented all. Why should we give you a new bill? Why should we give you a new act?
You know, the word is changing in the first place.
The old one, you've not implemented.
No, of course, there are some aspects we agree that has to be taken off. There are new things that we have to involve. So we are in a new era. Now what we want to do is to look at the interests of both parties. What I mean, the landlord and the tenant. One particular issue we've realized is about the investment in building houses. We understand government alone cannot solve this housing deficit. So, you know, we were talking about 2.0 million housing deficit. Just the current census has brought it to 1.8. These are all because of the investment private sector is putting in there. So we want to dwell more so that they can invest more in the housing sector. So one particular thing we want to implement, which we've proposed, is the 6 months which people are complaining about. We have to encourage the landlords also. Because if you build your premises and you take monthly to collect rent, or maximum of 6 months, and it will take you very, very long time to recoup your money. Though investment in housing is a long-term investment, but I want to push it to 1 year so that the longness of it will be shortened a little bit. So those are some of the things we are looking at, so that we look at the interest of the landlord as well, then push it to 1 year. In any case, a lot of tenants are
6 months and crying means here.
Yeah, but a lot of people are also paying. Just example I gave you. Once you are negotiating, somebody is standing behind because of the housing deficit.
So I thought you would rather bring it to 3 months so that it even...
No, but then what will be the encouragement for the private sector to invest in the housing sector?
Yeah.
At least
That's
we have
true.
to...
Look at the pros and cons.
Yeah, because some of, I mean, most people take out huge loans to build these premises and they have to pay back with big interest. So these small money, sometimes they are also constrained. And so they can't even increase the houses for the people who are in need of it. So you have to balance it. I believe 1 year is quite reasonable than the 6 months. So that a lot of people will not be flouting it.
Hey! You see how you say he might say any other in the new bill.
Yeah, the new bill is also coming to introduce what we call the National Rental Assistance Scheme. Okay, where if you can be guaranteed that every month you can pay your rent, government will cushion you and pay the 1 year if it's agreed to the landlord directly. Then every month it will be deducted from your salary or your bank account. So these are some of the things that is being introduced in the new bill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
And
that's far advanced. The National Rental Assistance Scheme is far advanced. Very soon it will come into fruition.
And so it's only going to be for government workers?
No, everybody every Ghanaian.
Oh,
if you can be guaranteed that every month a monthly salary or a monthly rent can be deducted from your account, you can apply for. Though there will be eligibility criteria where if you can, what we want to peg is that your rent should not exceed 30% of your income. Okay. If you and your partner can come together and then together you can depart 30%, then you can opt for a higher rent for it to be given to you. But it will be based on the eligibility criteria for you to qualify.
Okay. Yeah. Any other?
Yeah, and the name of the department, because of these new functions, is not going to peculiar to only rent control. Okay, we are going to administer this National Rental Assistance Scheme, this Airbnb and all those things. Even the hostels and the universities.
The old one cry, you are not able to do now. You're going to go Airbnb, you're going to have hostels, you're going to
the issue is that the staff of the department is going to, I've mentioned that every district will be mandated to give office.
Frankly speaking, looking at the resources at hand, do you think this is even plausible within 5 years?
It will.
Hey, Ima.
It will. No, with the fees and charges that has been approved by Parliament and the Ministry of Finance, when we are getting all those, it's even in the bill. It's even in the bill that we should take care of ourselves.
You get it.
We should.
You should. Will do you?
Yeah, we should. That's what I'm saying. With the fees and charges that has been approved, when we start collecting and we start paying ourselves, we start recruiting staff, No, let the bill come and let's see how we can. Because there's going to be a restructuring of the department. We are going to restructure the department. This archaic mentality of rent control will be a thing of the past.
Amen.
Amen.
So we have a question from Daniela. Daniela is saying, I'm enjoying the program. Please, do the children of a deceased landlord who died interstate have any right to sack any tenant whose time is due out of the house?
No. You know, under the normal circumstances, if the person dies, there should be a letter of administration to determine who is to. So if you are not the heir of the property, you don't have right to sack
anybody, even when your time is up.
No, when your time is up, the agreement is signed. The person who should be in charge can now come that your tenancy has expired. We have to sign a new agreement. Okay. Then we move forward.
Let's try and understand. Okay. So the first one is, if my time is up.
Yes.
If my time is up,
yes,
and I'm supposed to leave the premises, yes, but because no LA has been done, yeah, and there's no successor, yeah, I still live in the house.
No, you should move.
So I move.
You move. Because your tenancy has expired.
So I move irrespective of who, exactly, LA or no LA. However, if my time is not up, yeah, no one
can just.
But even if your time is up and you stay on, you become a statutory tenant, and they cannot take you out until there is a court order. So it's like nobody can force you out. I mean, just like that, even though the man is dead. You should go and get your LA, and then you
But your time is up.
Yes, it is up. But now you are a statutory tenant. You are protected by law.
Statutory tenants, that 3 months.
No, there's no duration. There's no duration. But yeah,
you have to get a court order.
Yes.
For the person.
Your time is up. You're supposed to pack and leave. Court order again.
No, you see, there are some stubborn tenants. He or she knows that the tenancy has expired, but because the person who rented the place for him or her is no more, they want to take advantage of those things. So that's where we have to rush and get the. So
it means that, yes, even if a tenancy, yeah, is up, the landlord cannot sue you to come and push the person out of the house.
No. That's what I said. That you cannot forcefully eject any tenant.
Yeah.
No matter what the circumstance.
Someone is at home saying, yeah, me in my house, your time is up, leave. You say you don't leave, I'll not eject you. But please, that is what the law says. Yeah. Yeah. Do it to protect yourself. Yeah. Okay. I have Odoi Tema. Or Lave program. Thank you so much. Ifwa Adoma Youngson says very impressive. Joshua Apaka, great insight. Osei Quarantine, he's also known as the president. He says, I'm enjoying the program. Greetings to Emmanuel. He says, this is Michael from Shiraj.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, you got a guy. Michael from Shiraj.
Exactly.
So let's sum up. So, Juliet, what are your final words?
My final words is that the rent situation in Ghana is I mean, the accommodation or rental situation is dire. And until we're able to expand the rent or make provision for housing, until the government steps in and make it affordable for a lot of people to actually own and rent premises, there's going to be a lot of underdealings. People are going to flout the laws, and which is being flouted all the time. And so what I would say is that, I mean, we should take this matter seriously. I mean, housing is one of the basic necessities of life. Mm. And therefore, investment should be geared towards that sector for it to come up. And then the landlords too, they should also know that, I mean, even though you have built your own premises and all of that, there are laws that govern the relationship. You don't have a right to just barge into a tenant's room and say, I don't want you in the house, and therefore just move out. No, it is not done. And a tenant who knows his or her rights can take you on, report you to the police, go to the rent control, and you'll be in trouble. So as much as you have the upper hand as landlords, you should also temper your powers and live peacefully with the tenants who are at your mercy. And the tenants too, you also have obligations, which I believe we'll talk about them some other time.
Next week.
So those are my final words. Yeah.
Okay, so in summing up, always what I say, implementation of the law is a collective responsibility. We all have our responsibility. But we've also realized that the agents some the factors of these 2 years and see, because they want their commission. Okay, so they are pushing a lot of landlords to collect more rent advance so that they can. But luckily for us, the Real Estate Agency Act has been assented to. Okay, the council has been set up, which is going to regulate anybody who calls himself or herself an agent or a broker. So those are the things.
Now that's a good one.
Yes, they are going to be examined, certified. Their names will be published, so that if you want to deal with any accredited person, you go through the list and find those things. So they should sit up. If you call yourself an agent or a broker, just sit up.
But these people are usually the uneducated, the down. You're going to take their jobs from them.
No, we are not. That's why the education will come in. Okay, they will be educated to know what they are supposed to do. We have these high-level agents and brokers, but those down there, they will not be left out.
Okay.
They will be educated and to be see exactly what they should do.
And just to add to that, I think even in this current law, there's a provision that you cannot, as a broker, you cannot take a commission, which is about 5%
exactly.
of the rents.
I think we'll be talking about that, the agents and the tenants.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about that next
Yeah.
week,
Okay.
God willing.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so let's just see, sir. Today we've discussed that of the landlord. Next week we'll be talking that of the tenant. And I know that we've bashed landlords today. Next week we'll be talking about tenants, and I'm hoping, sir, we'll be bashing them as well. Because frankly speaking, it's a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
I can't build my house and you come and determine all the rules and laws in my house. And you, to the fact that I build, doesn't mean say we are helping each other here. So can we have that good relationship and rapport so that we help each other, so that we all don't become enemies? You see, it's a good relationship. Let's keep it. So until next week, we are going to talk about the landlord and tenant relationship from the perspective of the tenant. Please be safe, and God willing, we shall meet next week. Stay blessed.